Thank you so much for taking the time to attend our presentation. My name is Rachel Fleming May. I'm an associate professor in the School of Information Sciences at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. My colleague Wade Bishop is a professor in the school with me. He's also director of graduate studies and coordinates our graduate certificate in research data management. I'm going to tell you about a project that Wade and I are currently working on with one of our students, whose name is Caroline Villarreal. It's a great support to us, that explores how librarians with liaison responsibilities, working with humanists and social scientists who take a more humanistic approach to their research, support their faculty and graduate students, researchers, data management needs. So just to set the stage a little bit, I want to talk about the data management landscape in the US. As you all know, I don't have to tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway, expectations for data management are changing and changing quickly here in the United States. The White House Office of Science and Technology Policy has released 2 memos in the past several years focused on issues of open access to research data. The 2013 Memorandum on Increasing Access to the Results of Federally Funded Research and the 22 Memorandum for the Heads of Executive Departments and Agencies. So the 2013 memorandum set expectations for storing and sharing research data generated through research funded by agencies that award more than $100 million in grant funds annually. This is primarily in the sciences, but actually their Department of Education awards more than 100 million annually. So it does affect more kind of social sciences oriented disciplines as well. And of course, the National Science Foundation, one of the biggest grant-making organizations, funds social sciences research also. The 2022 memorandum kind of upped the ante and created a greater sense of urgency regarding policies to make data generated through all federally funded research available to citizens whose tax dollars actually supported that research in the first place. This memo was more expansive and it affected all subject domains, not just the sciences and some of the social sciences, but the humanities as well. So how have academic libraries and academic librarians responded to these directives and others? These are only 2 of many policy and at the federal agency, local levels that mandate or strongly encourage sharing research funded by grant dollars in an open context. How have academic libraries and librarians responded? Well, academic libraries and librarians have implemented new and augmented existing supports for faculty and graduate students working on these grant-funded projects. In order to meet these data management expectations, libraries have acquired and implemented new tools. They've provided training. They have created new positions or staffed up old or existing areas, like new positions like data librarians, data management librarian positions, to provide supports for faculty and graduate students who are working with data. I mean, all researchers are working with data all the time, but to really support those efforts at research data management. But at least anecdotally, a lot of those supports have been put in place to really kind of reach out to and cater to faculty in the sciences and in more technical fields. So what I've always wondered as a person with a kind of humanistic approach to research myself and with a humanities undergraduate degree, what about the humanists? And what about those researchers who consider themselves social scientists, but who take a more humanistic approach? Remember that the 2022 memo kind of obliterated that, focus on scientific and technical fields and incorporated humanities and social sciences as well. It makes me think about, I several years ago when I was teaching our academic libraries class, I hosted a data librarian from an academic library to speak to my class. And He would spend a lot of time talking about his outreach to faculty and graduate students in the sciences and in engineering. And so I finally was kind of like, well, what about in the humanities? There are grant programs that require humanists or people submitting applications for grants funded in these humanities related fields to incorporate data management plans into their applications. And he kind of waited for a beat and then said, well, I think that actually the digital humanities librarian helps with that. I knew that that was not the case. And so I've always, ever since then, I've kind of had this in the back of my mind that, maybe those researchers who are working with humanities and social sciences data, more kind of humanistic social sciences data, are not getting the support that perhaps they might benefit from. So when I say humanities and humanistic approaches to research, let's just, clarify some of this terminology here. What are the humanities? First of all, the collection of disciplines that we refer to as the humanities. What are we talking about? The American Council of Learned Societies, the ACLS, kind of describes the humanities as that collection of fields of knowledge and learning that are concerned with human thought, experience, and creativity. Very broad, but what I've always heard is that the humanities are those things that make us human. So, or kind of the more kind of contemplative aspects of humanity. So philosophy, religious studies, literature, language, and the arts are what we typically, those disciplines that we typically think about as comprising the humanities. But I'm also mentioning, those social scientists who take a more humanistic approach to their research. That's important because the distinction between humanistic disciplines and social sciences disciplines is not always clear. Some colleges and universities will classify history as one of the humanities, for example, some as one of the social sciences. Then there are those disciplines that incorporate elements of the humanities and the social sciences. If you think about a field like linguistics, which is pretty firmly in the social sciences, on the social sciences side of the ledger, but you wouldn't have the study of linguistics without the study of language, which is firmly in the humanities side of the equation. So this distinction is not always clear, and it's not always helpful to or productive to really focus on it too much. Some social scientists also focus on humanistic perspectives in their research. And what exactly do we mean by that? So, I would consider myself one of these people. One of my primary foci in my research is on the use of language and specific words, for lack of a better term, to describe concepts, and how language within a discipline, particularly in the discipline of library and information science, evolves to describe either changing concepts or the way concepts change, but are still described by the same terminology. So I consider my approach to be more humanistic. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. We're really interested in humanists and how they interact with data, but we can't completely exclude social scientists either. So back to the subject at hand. Since we've cleared that up, let's talk a little bit about data requirements in the humanities and social sciences, excuse me. Some grant-making agencies, in addition to the guidance provided by the office, the OSTP, are requiring data management plans as part of their grant package. These are increasingly common and also complex. There are now the NEH, the National Endowment for the Humanities, has at least two programs that require data management plans as part of the grant application process. So humanists are applying for these grants, and they're being required to put these tools into place or use these tools to create data management plans that they have to include with their applications. So why are we interested in this? What kind of got us started on this? Wade was already engaged with research data librarianship and also had just conducted a study of sciences liaisons in the physical and life sciences. And we kind of got to talking one day, and he knew of my interest in academic librarianship, and we started talking about this as a potential project. So we decided that we were going to kind of see if we could look at liaison services to humanists and social scientists with sort of a twist, looking at something that maybe hadn't been explored a whole lot already. So we knew as social scientists ourselves that social scientists and humanists generate data. All research generates data. It may not be the type of data that we think of when we kind of imagine data in our minds, but all research generates data. One thing about data generated through social sciences research and humanities research is that it often is generated through methods like focus groups and one-on-one interviews. These typically have participant identifiers attached to them in some way, which kind of ups the ante as far as proper storage and management of data is concerned. Were social scientists and humanists actually putting those safeguards in place? Not sure. So we don't have to wonder about everything regarding how social scientists and humanists and scientists and medical faculty think about data and data management, because our friends at Ithaca S&R conduct a survey of faculty, large-scale survey of faculty every 3 years, most recently in 2021. And I will just here mention, because any chance I get, I mention my deep and abiding appreciation and love for the Ithaca S&R faculty survey. I use it very heavily in my own teaching and in research as well. So in 2021, which is the most recent iteration of this survey, it's a large-scale survey of tens of thousands of faculty. It asks them about all kinds of stuff about their own research, but also how they see the library and its role in their teaching and research as well. The 2021 Ithaca S&R faculty survey includes questions about respondents' data management practices. This is a relatively new little suite of questions that have been added to the survey. One of the first questions is about, when asking the respondent to imagine themselves in the position of collecting data for their research, how they manage that data, what they do with that data while they're working on a project, and then at the conclusion of that project. So this is the findings, and these are estimates. I will say I've recreated these from the Ithaca S&R faculty survey report. So I am estimating the percentages here. So not 100% necessarily accurate, but very close, within a couple of percentage points. I'm just stipulating that. The orange bar refers to the respondent's own computer, that they store the data on their own computer, both during and after a project's conclusion. The blue, or kind of aqua colored column, refers to cloud storage. They employ some cloud storage service. And the purple, which is so small for humanists that it's barely perceptible, refers to those respondents who say that the library at their home institution actually manages their data for them. Each of these, storing data on their own computer or in the cloud. I mean, cloud might be a little bit better, but it really depends on which cloud we're talking about, right? The point is that many of these respondents probably have robust data management services available to them through their libraries, but for whatever reason, they're not taking advantage of them. So back to our original question, do they need assistance? We know from Ithaca's survey that they are self-archiving. But do they know what the best practices for doing that are? Are they employing those best practices? Might there be more outreach that could be done to kind of assist researchers in the humanities and social sciences on this score. So another question from the Ithaca S&R survey that kind of informs our discussion today concerns the potential offering of support for managing and preserving research data. Respondents were asked, how valuable would you find it, or do you find it if you're currently using a service like this for your library to offer support for you? And while numbers are, below 50% for both humanists and social scientists, between 40 and 50% for both groups, that's a pretty, it may not be a majority, but it's a pretty considerable number of respondents say, like, yeah, this would be actually a very valuable service if this were offered to me. So we know at least some of them are interested. So our question, as we set out to kind of explore this topic, really, we were wondering, how are librarian liaisons to humanists and those social scientists who take a more humanistic approach supporting those faculty members and graduate students' research data management needs? What is happening in that regard in the academic library world? Our project, we decided to do a survey of librarians with liaison responsibilities in the humanities and social sciences. We wrote our survey and then we distributed it to a group of kind of hand-selected individuals. These were ARL member library liaisons, or librarians who worked at ARL member libraries, but then also those librarians who had liaison responsibilities and worked at libraries, colleges and universities that have been awarded one of those 2 NEH grants that require a data management plan from 2012 on. There is a fair amount of overlap between these 2 groups. A lot of ARL member libraries are also have been home to NEH grant programs, but there are also not as much overlap as you might actually anticipate, or not as much overlap as I anticipated anyway. So far, we have had a very good response rate of over 100 respondents. Because we are not requiring respondents to answer every single question that they're presented with. Most questions have between 260 and 300 responses to them, which is fine. It's to be expected if you're not requiring responses to all of your questions. Just to tell you a little bit about the respondents to this survey, one of the questions we wanted to know about their educational level, because there is sort of a phenomenon in academic libraries to hire for kind of high-level liaison positions or bibliographer positions, to hire individuals who do not have the ALA accredited master's degree. So as people who teach in an ALA accredited master's program, and even if I didn't teach in one, I would have very strong feelings about the need for an ALA accredited master's to work in a library. We wanted to ask about that. I personally, I won't speak for Wade, but was gratified to see that 91.4% of our respondents indicated that they have completed an ALA accredited master's. I was pleasantly surprised and impressed to see that 63% of our respondents have completed or are in the process of completing a master's degree in addition to the ALA accredited master's, what librarians typically call a subject master's. This kind of tracks with my own experience as a former academic library liaison librarian myself. Many of my colleagues had master's degrees in other academic fields. And then also, just what I see with my own students. I have many students who already in the UT's MSIS program who already have a graduate degree in another field, and occasionally a doctoral degree as well. 21% of our respondents have completed or are in the process of completing a doctoral degree. That was a surprisingly high number to me. So I was impressed. Very educated group of respondents here. So the questions that we asked them on this survey, we asked about, what kind of tasks do you regularly perform in your daily life at work? tasks related to open access and other approaches to publishing, copyright, patents and grants management, research data management, conducting research consultations, providing instruction, collection management, other kinds of consultations with faculty and students. We based the collection of liaison responsibilities on a document produced by the University of North Carolina at Greensboro for their liaison librarians to describe kind of the typical responsibilities of a liaison librarians. We also asked them, based on their responses to the kind of work that they actually engage in, where did you learn to do that work? How did you develop these skills? And because we teach in an ALA accredited master's program, we're interested, we also asked them about the preparation to do the work that they do in their job as a liaison by their ALA accredited master's program. So a little bit about just some of the kind of the responses we've gotten. I'm just going to share a little bit of this preliminary data with you. We did ask them, about humanities-oriented grant programs, including some of the ones offered by the NEH, requiring a data management plan. We asked them, in your professional role as a liaison to humanities and social sciences departments that may or may not have applied for and received one of these grants, have you helped with the development of any data management plans? 86% of our respondents said they had not. Only 14% had. This was I don't know that I had any expectations for this number, but this felt maybe a little bit low to me, or I should, if I want to put a positive spin on it, let's say this represents an opportunity for librarians to do a little bit more outreach and get involved in this facet of liaison work. We also asked, how often do you help faculty and or graduate students with data-related tasks, including using tools for data visualization, identifying options for storing research data, and locating secondary research data? The dark orange bar or segment of the column that represents the never response. In other words, they never do this type of work. Orange is more than 5 times an academic year. Aqua is 3 to 5 times in an academic year. Purple is 1 to 2 times in an academic year. And yellow is 1 to 2 times in a period of 3 academic years. So less frequently than once a year. You can see that these are not functions that these liaisons are, majority of them anyway, engaging in with a whole lot of regularity. Data visualization, a little bit more common, identifying options for storing research data as well, but really locating secondary research data was the only one of these that really there appears to be like robust work being done. So another segment of this question asked about, do you work with faculty and graduate students to develop strategies for data security, and then also to develop data management plans? This kind of tracks with the slide I showed you a minute ago that shows that most of these respondents indicated that they are not assisting with developing data management plans for humanities related grant applications anyway. 78% of the respondents said that they actually had never done this or never did this type of work. Another 11% said, just less frequently than once a year. And only just over 10%, 11% said that they'd done this with any more frequency than that. So there are a couple of themes that some of the comments have sort of coalesced around for me that I wanted to share with you that as we wrap up, that I thought were sort of emblematic of where liaison work focused on this particular group of tasks is right now. So first, Another thing I don't need to tell you, the scholarly communication ecosystem and landscape is extremely challenging, and it's changing very quickly. And that rate of change adds to the complexity and the challenge of working within it. Respondents mentioned that, talked about like leveling up their skills, whether or not the current skill set of the liaisons at their libraries were kind of up to the task or able to meet the task of all of these new models for scholarly communication and data management, including this individual who identified them and said, my role is still a traditional subject bibliographer. I need to catch up with many new trends. They responded that they themselves felt like they needed to catch up. This is something that I hadn't necessarily anticipated, and I found it very interesting. And I'm anxious to kind of dig back into our responses and see what else we're able to uncover about this phenomenon. That rather than distributing data management responsibilities among the liaison librarians, libraries seem to be relying on functional specialist positions for data management, those data management librarian positions, data librarian positions, rather than distributing those responsibilities, which is, that's fine. It's in some ways it's good because it allows the data librarians and data management librarians to really develop a strong suite of skills. They are able to take the time to learn all about all the tools that are out there and develop facility with all of them. But the kind of problem with that is that data is not generated in a vacuum. Data is always generated, research data is always generated within an epistemological and disciplinary framework. When data management is divorced from that disciplinary framework, removed from it, we lose all that context. This comment I thought was really interesting. The respondent said, I see research data management construed as a specific activity in the research cycle that's often overemphasized at the expense of the whole process. In my opinion, the whole research process is research data management. This is where the value of subject librarianship is lost in our current environment. I couldn't have put it better, and this individual actually articulated this concern in a way that I had not really put into words myself. One of my former students, who is now a social sciences data librarian, talks about this fairly frequently. She says, I try to, when people bring these, data questions to me, my colleagues bring these data questions to me, I try to encourage them to, this is part of being a liaison librarian, working with data. Data is, it's just one other type of information container that we need to figure out how to store and access and support. This shouldn't be segmented to and kind of shunted off to just a very small number of individuals. So next steps for this project, we're going to finish data analysis. Like I said, we've only just really started digging into it. Once we finalize the project, hopefully it will be published somewhere, and maybe you'll see it on your newsstands, like your imaginary newsstands in the future. And of course, again, because we teach in an LIS program, we will no doubt look at what we've found vis-a-vis preparation for this type of work, and see if there are applications of those findings to our MSIS curriculum and changes that maybe can be informed by what we've discovered by surveying these respondents. So thank you again for your attention. Future me is probably in attendance, cringing while listening to my Midwestern accent. And waiting to, hopefully answer some of your questions if you have them. Um, Thank you for your time. If you're not able to stick around and ask questions, please feel free to email me or Wade. Those are our email addresses, and we will get back to you. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation and the rest of the Charleston Conference. Thank you for your time and for listening.